Witness the colossal boxing showdown nobody expected, live on Netflix. International superstar Jake Paul, the sport's most watched fighter, takes on Britain's two-time unified heavyweight world champion and Olympic gold medalist, Anthony A.J. Joshua, in the most dangerous and defining matchup of their careers. This is Judgment Day. Watch Jake Paul versus Anthony Joshua, Friday, December 19th at 8 p.m. Eastern, 5 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, live on Netflix.
When the holidays start to feel a bit repetitive, reach for a Sprite Winter Spiced Cranberry and put your twist on tradition. A bold cranberry and winter spice flavor fusion, Sprite Winter Spiced Cranberry is a refreshing way to shake things up this sipping season. And only for a limited time. Sprite, obey your thirst.
Every Who down in Who Newville liked the holidays a ton. But where to get great prices on gifts, they had no idea. None. They searched and they searched for great gifts under $25. Gifts for spouses and friends and even their toddlers. When suddenly one Who shouted, Walmart has what you want, knowing they have Lego, Tree Hut, and low prices to flaunt. So they enjoy the holiday season as Who's often do. Cheering and shouting, Walmart has incredible gifts. Who knew? Find gifts they'll love under $25 at Walmart.
Good evening, everyone. Welcome to A Bit of an Animal. It's me, it's Thembi Nkosi. It's just the two of us this week to handle all the South African rugby. We are also a bit of an animal. Let's get going. So first up, we have to pay tribute to a lost legend who unfortunately passed on this week. We are remembering Lusanda Dumka, who unfortunately passed on after a very short battle with cancer. It has taken the rugby world quite a bit by surprise. I definitely enjoyed watching her both play for the Blue Bulls Daisies team as well as the Springboks women's team in the Rugby World Cup. She was definitely, you could see there was passion. She was a powerful player and she will definitely be missed. There is a GoFundMe for her funeral to help cover costs. She was also the sole breadwinner in her family, and despite being a professional rugby player, I'm sure that it leaves a big, big gap, not as big as the hole that she leaves in her family's hearts, but we do remember her, and you will be sorely missed, Lusanda Dumka. Okay, moving on, we will jump straight into the past weekend. We'll start with Thembi Nkosi's second team, the Stormers. How was that for you?
The game was practically over in the first 20 minutes. Given if they didn't disallow those two tries, I think the score would have been probably further on. And yeah, it was like a Sasha and Rainer. So the two of them you can kind of see what they brought onto the team. They kind of commanded the lead. Every aspect of their game, even who's this De Villiers was playing well until Turnison came on and took over from his shift. But it was like a domination. The only critique I would have, and I know since he's our favorite child now, it's kind of blasphemy to say that his kicking accuracy, especially to the pole, Sasha, was kind of we need to talk about it, but maybe not now. He still has time. But otherwise, they put on a show. They didn't give up. Even when La Rochelle were attacking, they still held it together. So shout out to them. That's 7 now?
Yeah, it's they've managed to build up a good head of steam, and winning momentum is so important in sport because you it's a habit. You have to break the habit of losing and you have to get into the habit of winning. I think I think there's I had this conspiracy theory moment over the weekend, and I was sitting there and I was wondering if Rassie maybe didn't whisper something in the Stormers' ear. If when Reinach contract came up, and maybe he puts it out there. I want to come back to SA. I'm looking to leave France. It's not fun anymore. I want to come back to South Africa. I wonder if Rassie doesn't whisper there something in the Stormers' ear. Get Reinach in. I can see Reinach and SFM playing well together, and building that partnership at club level that obviously carries over at Springbok level. And I don't know, maybe I'm nuts, but I'm seeing it there, and it pays off, like you
Like
said.
they're kind of having like a Bok feel to them. Like they are kind of playing and behaving like the Springboks. Like I see where you're going with this.
Yeah. So I don't know. That's my conspiracy theory for the week. Get my little tinfoil hat on. Rassie whispered something there in the ear of Dobson. Said, "Listen, let's get these two guys together." But it again, and we discussed this earlier in the year. It just shows you the difference a good nine can also make on attack, because
Yeah.
it forces the defenders to be close to the ruck, close to the scrum, and you got to watch for Reinach, because if he hits that half gap, he's gone. And now you've got, it's Willemse in the backfield, it's Sasha at 10, it's Reinach at 9. I mean, the job for inside center, outside center at the Stormers must be the easiest thing in the world. Just hit the gap.
Or just wait for Sasha to pass you. Like at this point, like
Yeah,
Reinach will take the first defender on, pass it to Sasha. Sasha will just take a gap. All you need to do basically, this is why I think Dylan Mott had a nice game, because all he had to do was just be the supporting runner and you will get the ball. Like I think looking back, except for the Mo try, I think Sasha was kind of like the last assist for everyone, like for every other try for the match except for the Mo try. So yeah, must be
yeah,
an easy job being a
definitely.
center.
I have to say, Dylan Mart gives me very much early Makazole Mapimpi vibes. Like he's got a
Yeah.
bit of size to him, so he's not a small. And Mapimpi also has got a bit of size, a bit of height. Not he's got that straight line speed. Maybe not as good of a stepper as Colby or Edwell or those guys, but he's got that straight line speed. Gives me very much Makazole Mapimpi vibes, and I'll be interested to see where he goes. That try of his, and like you said, his involvement in the game, just having those good support lines, trademarks of Makazole Mapimpi. So maybe it's Mapimpi 2.0 at growing up there at the Stormers.
We need another wing at the Springboks. Seems like Aronsa and Cheslin are eventually going to give way, and Ethan and Moody are decided to be centers. So we don't have wings, technically.
Not yet, not yet. We're still growing them. We're waiting on new scrum caps. Moving on shortly. Let's go to. Let me just see if I can move this thing quickly. There we go. Let's go to no, let's go to this game. Your other team, who has now graciously disappeared. Lions versus Newcastle Red Bulls. Tembi Nkosi, over to you.
I'm not sure. This is one of those matches where we talk about how possession does not win games. Like we had the most carries, our line out. Oh, we disrupted their line out. We won most of our line outs. We won most of our scrums. We disrupted their scrums a lot. Like for every aspect of the game, I thought we were ahead or even better than the other team. But my problem is it took us like what 10 phases to get like 2 meters of gain line, and that was like basically the story of the whole match where we went side to side. We had a lot of phases, but we did not beat any defenders. And the only time we did beat defenders, we were in our own half. So yes, Krill ran through the whole field, but he didn't score. So it was kind of like it was a match where you're asking yourself, like, guys, okay, maybe I'm looking back in hindsight. I thought maybe some of the penalties when we were still playing every phase, we should have maybe kicked for goals and trying to get more the scoreboard pressure. But I guess now that's just like hindsight, like as I mentioned. But shout out to Red Bulls. Like they took in the pressure. They kept us contained up until the last minute where they took over. They took their chance and scored. So yeah, I can't even complain. Everyone played well. It's just you didn't win.
Yeah. Yeah, it's stuff like that, and I think this is what you get for beating the Blue Bulls is you lose to the Red Bulls. If you'd lost to the Blue Bulls, you could have beaten the Red Bulls. uh,
I feel
yeah,
like we
no,
needed to beat both bulls, whether blue or red.
yeah. No, I think I understand where you're coming from, and it's definitely been hard being a Lions fan this season, and watching the club from the outside. There's a lot of talent there. Um, and there's some news on their talent front, which we'll get to after this. But yeah, no, definitely, and it's also hard for us to sort of predict in terms of the Newcastle Red Bulls because while Newcastle isn't a new team, um, and I'm speaking under correction here. The way I understand it, the Newcastle Falcons declared bankruptcy and the club shut down, and they were non-participatory for like a year or two at all in all forms of rugby. And then Red Bull came in, and after obviously the success with the Red Bull soccer team, they thought, let's get a Red Bull rugby team. And I think that will be good for rugby, just having that brand exposure tied to Red Bull. But obviously, we're glad that that an old club found new life. We're just sad that the Lions couldn't manage to squeak out 5 extra points there. I definitely think though there's for much of the SA teams, and I'll touch on this again when I'm reflecting on the Bulls game. It's like we don't have a defensive strategy. Um,
Yeah.
our defensive strategy is just to soak up and tackle and tackle and tackle. We don't have a plan of tackling with purpose. Tackling with we're gonna pin them down. We're not gonna allow them the opportunity to go wide. We're not gonna allow them the opportunity to kick. It's sort of like um, the only defensive strategy we have is tackle as hard and as fast as possible. And eventually you're gonna get tired.
Do you know what's my remember when you talked about I think it was a few weeks back when you talked about that we don't have coaching. I think we don't have each team does not have a specialist coach tackling team where they teach you go low if when you hit the legs the next person is supposed to be ready to jack. I think we don't have specializations in. I feel like we need a coaching team where you have like a scrum coach. In that scrum coach, you have like a hooker coach that focuses on hooking and lineouts. I think we need more specialization. Maybe then our defense will be a little bit better because if we even give away stupid yellow cards because you're like, what was that? Even Angela Davis here, I even forgot to mention. I saw him give was he give someone like a right hook as he
Mm.
was giving me Sunny Bill William vibes. I'm like, you must go to Dagestan and see where maybe you have a future there. But yeah, we need like some sort of specialist in every aspect of the game because it feels like we don't focus on the small details because we're like, you should know how to tackle. You're a professional. You should know how to tackle. So we're just gonna skip that part and focus on the attack. And I think
Yeah.
that's where it's costing us.
Yeah, no, I agree with you, and it's all good and well. We demand a high skill set, and we say, listen, in terms of skill set, we're expecting this level or we're expecting that level. Um, but then if you see the guys aren't reaching the level you need, then you got to work on those skills. And
Get the
I
basics
think
right.
that yeah, absolutely, get the basics right. I think especially for the teams, considering the some of the teams who have pretty huge areas. I mean, Bulls have probably the largest recruiting footprint in the country. Sharks, by no means a small footprint, having pretty much the whole Golden Coast. Um, if you've got that talent pool to recruit from, and you've got Craven Week, and you've got all the other things that you have, you can be selecting guys who are good on defense. You can be selecting guys who are good jacklers. You can be selecting guys who are good passers. And I refuse to believe that there's not proper fly halves out there. Like I refuse to believe that the Stormers cannot be the only team with a like 100% 10 in South Africa. But anyway, moving swiftly from tragedy to happiness, let's take a look at the Hollywood Bet Sharks and Saracens. Hollywood Bet Sharks managing to clinch their first game in quite a while, having recently only drawn with
I think
Scarlets,
it's the
I believe,
Dragons.
or the
I think it's the
Dragons, yes,
Dragons. Yeah,
and
one
they
of the
managed to win.
teams.
Yeah, so this was actually a pretty fun game to watch. I was very much impressed with the Sharks. It seemed like there was, while there wasn't like any on-field innovation, there was definitely a bit of an attitude change. It felt like there was more purpose. It felt like the guys were present in the game, not focused on what had been said before the game or what had been said in the boardroom. It really felt like the team was present. Um, so yeah, I'm not one to, start pointing fingers towards the old coach or the new coach or anything, but it did feel like there was a lot more focus. Like, the air had cleared and the players had focus. You mentioned good tackling technique. I think the Sharks had a very, very good um, tackle technique that a lot of players going really low, trying to chop those legs. Um, and yeah, I'm just glad for the Sharks because, like we said with the Stormers, it's very easy to win a bunch of games in a row if you've been winning. Managing to turn around a losing streak, it takes a lot from you. You almost have to go double as hard to break that losing habit and start building that winning habit. Um, but yeah, the only concern for me is I don't think the Sharks have a proper like a proper 10 nailed down, and you need a fly half. And I feel like that's the position where they are probably weakest. But yeah, over to you.
Actually, Mike, I think like you're right. The fact that they won kind of means something, and you like when you said that. I also felt it when you're watching the match. It felt like they had like an intent, like they were actually striving to do something. Where in the last couple of matches we were looking at it and we're like, okay, what is your game plan? We don't see a game plan. But last week's match, I mean last week's match kind of felt like we we are trying to do something or we wanna do something. You could feel that in the team. So yeah, I'm hoping that it gives them a good game. I think let's hope that they can carry on from here.
Yeah, same. I'm very happy for them, and I think while a lot of not a lot of a lot of hate and a lot of frustration has been thrown at the previous coach Plumtree. Um, I think at the end of the day, if I'm trying my best and I'm not getting the result, stepping aside and allowing someone else to try his best, and if he gets the result, it just means I wasn't the right fit. And I think that might be the case here. But yeah, definitely agree. Massive, like you said, and I think you struck the right word there. There was intent in the way they played. They brought an intent and a purpose to the way they played. So yeah, very glad for the Sharks. Not hoping it continues this weekend, but we'll get into that in a moment. Moving on to the other big disappointment of the weekend. My Vodacom Bulls decided that 1/10 of the points of the opposition team would be enough, and then proceeded to have a very, very disappointing match in Franklin Gardens versus the Northampton Saints. Now, the team that did play, the Vodacom Bulls team, was heavily rotated. So, no Andre Pollard, Kate Volhiter, um, and very much some younger players having a go there. Versus a Northampton Saints team who was stacked to the brim with everyone's favorite person to hate, Mr. Pollock. Checking there if I'm still fine. But yeah, I think at the end of the day, this falls down, and like I said earlier, not having a defensive strategy beyond simply tackling, tackling, tackling. And don't get me wrong, there were moments where we scored fantastic turnovers, um, but it was like little things. Every time we would score a turnover and we get a penalty, we try and kick for touch, but we try and kick as long as possible. And then what the Saints guys would do is they would stand outside of touch and just sort of jump in and catch the ball mid-air, and then that takes your penalty completely away. And they must have done that 3 or 4 times, and that took the wind right out of the Bulls. Um, I think the Bulls scrum wasn't as dominant as they'd been banking on. And lastly, I think Cade Volhitter, who had been kicking well, according to the commentators pre-match, definitely felt the pressure a bit, and was misfiring. Like they targeted him, Northampton targeted him and put him under a lot of pressure. And the Ackerman sort of left him there. Do you know? I don't know if it's a blooding experience. I mean, this guy's played a lot of rugby, but Keegan Johannes was on the bench. Why not bring him on? He's experienced. He can get the backline moving. He can get the ball out wide. There's a 10 who can be a bit more subtle, who's got a bit more of level-headedness. He's been watching the game for the past 20 minutes. He can see what they're doing. Let him come on. I mean, Rassie did this in a semi-final. He took Libok off and brought Pollard on. And if I mean you're a professional, you might not like it, but you understand that in that moment you're not the right guy for the job. Sub him off. Yeah, so I don't know, difficult pill to swallow. I will say biggest hand clap for a ref ever to Holly Davidson, who when the Vodacom Bulls prop number 3 was sent off with a yellow card for tripping the Northampton Saints player, like a on purpose proper trip. Um, After the Bulls player had protested, which I don't necessarily agree with the way he protested. He could have been calmer, but I can also understand the frustration. Uh, Paused the game and then said, "Listen, I've got a player who's just received a yellow card, who is vigorously protesting that he was tripped." And she demanded that the TMO relook at everything. And unfortunately for our player, the camera angle just didn't show it. It showed something, but it didn't show a clear trip. So, but shout out just for her to understand that a player protesting that much feels it's an injustice, and listening to the player, and I think that also helps. It makes the player feel heard. But yeah, enough out of me. Over to you, Tim Nkosi.
I don't know what to say. Like it was a really disappointing game, but like you said, maybe Keegan Johannes would have been a better. Should have came on earlier. Maybe you could have changed the game. Okay, he wasn't going to change the game because it was already too late even then. But maybe the score would have been a bit more respectable. But I don't know. It's like you said, a tenth of the actual score. There's not much positives you can see from that, except for hey, you scored. It's not like you got there and like it feels like they got that 5 points like a participation try. Like you guys were there.
Yeah, no, definitely agreed. Yeah, difficult pill to swallow. But yeah, so let's move on from disappointing times into the weekend upcoming. Our Sharks team has been announced. Temi Nkosi, will you take us through it since you found this beautiful, lovely team hiding from us?
Yeah. So like you said, we talked about how there are no tens, and it's nice to see that Jordan Hendrick gets to play a 10, even though I feel like he's more of like a 15 or a center, but he seems like he's the other backup 10 except for Sasha in terms of age group. It looks like it's a pretty strong team. It's a pretty strong team. It depends really on how they're going to decide to play. Are they going to go for you know the Sharks? You can never tell. It could be a strong team on paper, then somehow the Bulls win by far. So team on paper.
Yeah, no, definitely. I agree with you. This is a absolutely stacked team. I mean, just quickly counting Bongio Nambi, Sia Kulisi, Vincent Chichuka, Grant Williams, Jordan Hendrickson, Makazole Mapimpi, Andre Esthuizen, Ethan Hooker, Edwin van der Merwe. The team is pretty much consisting of the match day 23 is consisting of about 10, 11
Yeah,
Springboks. So
10, because
definitely
Buthelezi so is a Springbok.
oh yeah, and Pepsi Buthelezi as well. Thanks for that one. Yeah, no, definitely. I think this is as stacked a team as they can put out. Maybe a little bit concerned about the bench. But then, there's some experience there and some youth. Definitely Lee Marvin Mazibuko has been making a name for himself. Marvin Ori is there. Jaden Hendrickson to come on and replace Grant Williams. And George Whitehead, who is apparently leaving the Sharks after this weekend's match, which to me makes no sense at all when George Whitehead seems to be the the preferred player for at 10. I was certainly impressed with his performance over the weekend versus Saracens. So if I'm the Sharks, that's where I'd be spending my money. The Bulls haven't announced their team, but if they are in any way paying attention to this podcast, I know Ackerman, you are a closet fan. Anytime you want to have me over for a coffee or a chat, just drop us a comment down below. And feel free to like and subscribe. It's fine. It's okay. We know we don't talk nonsense here. I wouldn't be surprised if the Bulls roll out Mr. Ice Cold himself, Andre Pollard, to go up against Jordan Hendricks at 10. Um, my concern though, being a Bulls fan, looking at this Sharks team, that center pairing of Andre Esthuizen and Ethan Hooker, that's a deadly midfield combo. Having to stop Esterhuizen takes two guys. Having to stop Ethan Hooker takes two guys. If they're running at you, you need to be on top of your game.
While you're on the center pairing, considering how the defensive thing is, your defensive, that's gonna cost you. That's gonna cost you. Like, you need to be extra on point on defense just to stop Estes, and otherwise you're gonna have a long day. I doubt though.
No, definitely agreed. If you don't stop Esterhuizen, you're pretty much in the hurt locker already. Then our other two local teams are popping up this weekend. Them being Kosi, take us through what you expect for Stormers versus Lions.
I expect Stormers to receive their first defeat of the season. That is
Oh,
what I'm going for. That is that is what I'm going with. I'm gonna speak it with pride. Honestly, it would balance out if the Lions could pull off. I think the Lions have this underdog thing, and especially because now they also just won in Loftus, and that was like their first win in like 2 years. I hope they take that momentum and go into this match and do a spectacular job. But considering Stormers on a roll and how that team is going, I don't see. I It's gonna be hard for the Lions to win.
yeah, I agree with you there, and I think the biggest thing for me is, and I actually, when I was watching this game over the weekend, um, there's a lot of question marks around why Rassie hasn't selected Ivan Ruiz, and I mean like over the weekend, there was a moment where Ivan Ruiz went for a turnover. And like it was blatantly illegal, right? He wasn't in a good position. He wasn't supporting his own body weight, and he got penalized for it. And then he walks away shaking his head. And um you can sort of you can sort of understand that at that point you're looking at a guy who he knows what he's doing is on the line. He's creating a 30-70 call where 70% of the time he's going to get a penalty against him. And then when he gets rightfully penalized for it, he's sort of, frustrated. And when I look at that, I'm thinking to myself, you put that guy on against France or against Ireland, they're gonna be in his ear the whole time, telling him, "You ain't nothing, you ain't this, you can't get a turnover." And the first moment he gets penalized, he's gonna be frustrated, he's gonna be blowing his head. So I know Rassie has spoken about this, but for me, that's sort of where it lies, is the fact that he's not play he doesn't always play smart rugby, and he puts himself in positions or in situations where the ref can't but go against him. So yeah,
What
and
about
I understand where you're coming from in terms of saying the Lions might win this. You know, if you're too high on your own supply, very easy to look at the Lions and think, ah, this is a done deal, and then end up 80 minutes standing behind the poles thinking, what happened?
what's your take on instead of Evan Royce on De Villiers as the next Springbok in that Stormers lineup?
That guy. Man, that guy, I love that guy. He's cool, he's calm. In a way, he's there like, this is my job. I'm gonna focus on doing this job as good as I can, as best as I can. I'm not gonna focus on anything else. And I'm telling you now, if he gets pulled into if he gets pulled into the early matches next year, I am not surprised. I will not be surprised. He's ticking all the right boxes for me. And I think on top of that, like he's a pretty big guy. He's got some size to him. I think with the right coaching, he can do a job at 8. Because if you look at the way the Springboks play, I mean, Dwayne Vermeulen, Jasper Wiese, Juarno Augustus, these are all guys who are pretty sizable. Even Pepsi Buthelezi is not a small guy, right? You like your 8, well, we as South Africans, we like our 8s to be big, strong ball carriers, good under the high ball. If they can contest, I mean, obviously Dwayne Vermeulen sets the bar pretty high, and he was a pretty good contester at ruck time. But yeah, no, good shout out there with Paul de Villiers. He's just been, since the moment he stepped on the field, he's just been a revelation.
He's giving me like Nokia vibes where they're the type of people where they're just doing their job. Like they're not there for the fame, they're not there for the hype. They're there. It's like a 9 to 5. He knows exactly what's my job and what I need to do at my position, and he just does that the whole match without complaining. So yeah,
No, definitely, I agree. Then before we go into all the other nonsense things, there's some important news regarding the Lions that we have to get here, and I'm just trying to quickly get a picture of Tembi Nkosi's new favorite prop, who will be joining the Lions coming next season. Just share my screen here so everyone can get a view. Recently announced, Buan Fenter will be leaving Edinburgh and joining the Lions from the start of the 2026-2027 URC campaign. I think that makes your scrum now officially one of the strongest scrums, considering this guy at 124 kgs is going to be packing down on the other side of Nklabakanye, who is the best side of 130 kgs. That's a lot of meat.
it is. I'm actually glad that he's coming back. He saw that he's not gonna play for Scotland. He's already a Springbok now, so he doesn't need to be at Edinburgh. I'm sorry, he was just buying time there. He's gonna be back. It's good to see him at the especially that the fact that he chose the Lions out of all teams. It shows that it still has some sort of pull. It still has some sort of pulling power in terms of players. It's still a I want to say a big team, but you can't be a big team with such results. But it's good to have him back. It's going to be interesting to have him in Tlabakanya. And who's going to be in the middle? It's going to probably be PJ Bota. Yeah, it's going to be a strong
Yeah.
scrum.
No, definitely, and something I would be looking forward to for start of URC 2026-2027 would be seeing this scrum going up against the Stormers scrum, which, while not as heavy, has been taking some big names this season, and they've
It's
impressed
probably
us
gonna have
all.
Lou also.
Yeah. And yeah, like you said, they're getting Wilco Low next season, so that's going to be, I mean, talk about a Springbok matchup. That's going to be some
Mhm.
fun scrums to watch. Just taking a quick look at the rest of the weekend. Uh, since it's Derby weekend, apparently, we've got Cardiff and Scarlets facing off, Leinster and Ulster facing off. That should be a pretty interesting game at the Aviva. I would not be too unhappy to see Ulster take Leinster down a notch. Leinster not having had an outstanding season. Then some of the other matches, Benetton versus Zebra Parma, Glasgow and Edinburgh in what can only be called the Scottish Punch-Up or the Glasgow Smile, Ospreys and Munster, not sure how that's a derby, and Dragons and Connacht, some cross-border derbies there. What do you think will be the other match to watch this weekend, Tembe Nkosi?
Um, Definitely Leicester and Ulster. Seems like there's a bit of a history there in terms of in the Irish camp. I think Ulster was one of the first teams to kind of win everything. Then Leicester came on after a couple of years, so that's definitely going to be an instant thing to watch. Probably Glasgow and Edinburgh, since it's the only Scottish derby, and probably also Benetton and Zebra is going to be a heated match because Zebra seems like they are no more their little brother Costa Street. It seems like they're punching up their own weight. So it will be an interesting game. I think Monster and Ospreys, they probably should have just switched Dragon and Ospreys, that could have been an Irish derby. But yeah, my match for the week will probably be Benetton and Zebra.
Yeah, no, I agree. We'll call it the Pasta Cup. We will see who come on top, who comes out on top for the Pasta Cup, and I agree. Whoever wins what can only be called the Whiskey Face-Off in Hampden Park between Glasgow and Edinburgh. I'm sure that will also be a very interesting match. But I agree with you. I think the only other match to watch, if you are a South African URC fan, will be Leinster versus Ulster. Because remember, Ulster has Joarno Augustus, while Leinster has Archie Snyman. You don't get, I think, two bigger guys in Ireland playing right now that are South African than those two. Um, yeah, closing thoughts before we sign off, Tembe Nkosi.
Uh, Stormers gonna get their first lose. My final thoughts of the week. Lions, there's going to be a big headline sale that goes about how the Lions took on the top team. But I know this is just hopeful thinking, but I really hope that's how it plays out. So, Lions for the win. Lions to save the URC and Europe.
Right, Damian Gossi with the controversial take there. My controversial take will be that Mr. Andre Pollard will earn his money down in Durban for what can only be described as the first sell-out match for the Sharks since 2012. But that's only because all of Gauteng, so to all our foreign listeners, all of the central part of South Africa has participated in the annual migration where we leave the bushveld to go to the sea. It's
Yeah.
only the random workers like us and true rugby fans who stay home and because we spend all our time prepping this wonderful show for you. But yeah, I think Mr. Andre Pollard's going to earn his contract money down there, kicking penalties all day long. Anything from, well, it's at sea level, so anything from, I'd say about the 60-meter mark looks good. But yeah, I think it's going to be a close and edgy game. And unfortunately, I think the Sharks' winning streak will have to continue, not this Saturday, but the Saturday after. But yeah, from us at the South African Rugby Pod, a bit of an animal. Have a good weekend. In Rassie, we trust.
podcast is part of the Sports Social Podcast Network.
Hiring isn't just about finding someone willing to take the job. You need the right person with the right background who can move your business forward. If you want candidates who truly match what you're looking for, trust Indeed-sponsored jobs. With Indeed-sponsored jobs, your post stands out to quality candidates who actually fit the role. According to Indeed data, 90% are more likely to be hired and trusted by 1.6 million companies. Spend more time interviewing candidates who check all your boxes. Less stress, less time, more results. Now with Indeed-sponsored jobs. And listeners of this show will get a $75 sponsored job credit to help your job get the premium status it deserves at Indeed.com/Podcats13. Just go to Indeed.com/Podcats13 right now and support our show by saying you heard about Indeed on this podcast. Indeed.com/Podcats13. Terms and conditions apply. Hiring? Do it the right way with Indeed.